Welcome to Hey Chaplain. My name is Jared Altick, and I'm a chaplain with the police department. The Hey Chaplain podcast is the place where law enforcement officers and those adjacent to the law enforcement world come and tell their stories to the chaplain in order to encourage you. Here at Hey Chaplain, we want every police officer to be healthier in every possible way. So we hope that this free podcast becomes a catalog of valuable resources for you to go back to refer to, and to help and share with others. At the time of this recording, I have received several really nice emails just recently, but that made me realize that I had gone several weeks without hearing any messages from listeners of the show. So if you would please go to the show notes or the episode description, and there you'll find two different methods to communicate. You can text a message to the show, which is kind of a one-way communication, sort of like sending fan mail to my podcast host. I get an alert, I see that. I don't have a way to respond to you, but when I receive those, I put those into a file, and I will sometimes read those on future episodes. You can also email me directly. There's an email link in that episode description, so that if you want to interact, if you want to ask questions, if you want to give feedback about how the show is going for you, just send me an email, and I monitor that on a daily basis. A few years back, I was at a police department promotion ceremony and began chatting with a guest who was an ATF civilian analyst. Every gun story he told was fascinating. Every insight he had on firearms was just spot on. He was good-humored and friendly. So I asked him right there, would you ever consider coming on the Hey Chaplain podcast? We can talk guns, we can talk about the ATF. I just want to get you on the show. He was very agreeable, but he said, we'll have to run it by legal first. 3 years later, we now have Mark Brock here to talk about crime scenes, firearms and ammunition, working for the ATF as a retirement job, and which sidearm is best for police officers. You're going to enjoy this one. Here's Mark Brock. Hello, Mark. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, Jared. How are you?
I'm doing great. Glad to get you here. I have been pursuing you for a couple years or more, maybe 2 or 3.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I'm happy to have you come in the office today to record with me. I knew you were the gun guy that I wanted to talk to.
Okay.
And so we're going to talk about guns today.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to help.
Tell me a little bit about your career. You work for the sheriff's office, right?
I did. I worked for the Buchanan County, Missouri Sheriff's Office. I started my career as a correctional officer and moved through the ranks to patrol and sergeant and then captain. And most of my career was in the investigative branch of the sheriff's office. I was the first full-time investigator.
Oh, really?
And when I retired, I was supervising 8 investigators.
Oh, fantastic.
And my major thing was, and what I was known for, was crime scene. Everybody liked to watch me work crime scene photography, collecting evidence, noting it, and trying to examine it and see what the crime scene told us.
You were supervising detectives at the sheriff's office.
Yes, it was.
This is St. Joseph, Missouri?
Yes, that's the county seat.
Yep. Ooh. Did you? Oh, that would have been before your time, surely. There was a school shooting, 1987, in DeKalb.
I photographed it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember the call from the FBI. They were doing a research on school shootings, and they had told me that was one of the first documented school shootings.
Well, we won't go into it, especially since I didn't give you any preparation whatsoever. It just occurred to me DeKalb is in Buchanan County.
Right.
But so you've even worked a school shooting.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you helped investigate the school shooting in DeKalb, Missouri.
I did. I photographed it, did the crime scene work and drawing, and I also went and photographed autopsies.
Wow, that's hard work.
That was my first autopsy, by the way.
Oh my goodness sakes alive! Yeah, that's That'll stick with you.
Yeah.
God bless you. God bless you.
Prior to me becoming the full-time investigator, if you were out working and you got a call of a domestic, you worked it.
Yeah.
You followed up with it. You got the statements. You got the evidence. You collected evidence. And that goes all the way to a homicide. Mm-hmm. And most of the homicides involve firearms. Mm-hmm. And so you would be the one. You'd have to try to find the evidence at the crime scene. And that's what I continued with all the rest of my career.
So you also have been a gun guy your whole life. You were telling me a story earlier. What's the first time someone asked for your help with a gun? I
was 14 years old, and my neighbor brought me a pile of parts, and I put it all back together and made it work. He brought me it was a small handful or double handful of parts, and I asked him, well, what kind of gun is it? And he told me, and I said, well, I just happen to have a 20 gauge of that. It was a Mossberg. And so I got my Mossberg owner's manual out, looked at the blown up schematic. And of course, it doesn't tell you what the parts are. It just kind of points.
Yeah.
It doesn't say, what proper way and what timing to put them in. And it took me a while, but I got it back together. And to this day, it's working.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's been a year or two. And so since you were 14, right?
Yeah,
yes,
that's correct.
That's awesome.
50 some years.
So you've always been a gun guy. You kind of done some gunsmithing for people, some armory work for your sheriff's office.
That's correct.
Did you have to go to special training for any of that, or how much of that was kind of life experience and on the job?
Well, when I first started, we all of us carried our own guns because we had to buy everything. Our own brass, our own badge, your own gun, your own leather.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't all have the same weapons. And so if there was a problem, rather than, I said, well, I'll look at it. I never had one come to you I couldn't fix.
Oh, wow.
And so then, of course, when we started getting with the department provided firearms, well, then they wanted somebody to go to armorer school for that particular weapon. Sure. And for the weapons that they changed throughout our history, I went to those schools.
Do you recall what your sidearms were once they were all uniform?
The very first uniform firearm was a 40 caliber Glock 22.
Okay. Yeah, that's a common, especially for that time period.
Right.
That's very common 40 caliber Glock.
Right.
And so,
well, I mean, the Glock is one of the simplest guns out there. I kind of think that Gaston Glock and John Browning were related,
right?
Because they're both known for simplicity.
Yeah, is the Glock armor kind of like the commercials of the Maytag repairman?
Right.
Nothing to do.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the way it was through my career. I can't remember a failure other than dirty in a Glock all the time that I worked on them. It wasn't until we got to Springfield that we started having a few breakages, and we traded those pretty quick. I had a guy that was on the SWAT team there in Buchanan County and kept bringing me his firearm. Of course, every time I got it, it was really dirty. And he gave me the symptoms, and I said, well, maybe you should clean it once in a while. And I replaced some parts just to appease him, and he just kept bringing it back. And finally, I said, listen, bring me some of the casings because I don't think it's the rifle. And so he gave me some casings, and then I started noticing things of casings coming apart, or maybe the primer was sticking out a little far. And I'm thinking, okay, somebody has loaded these wrong. And they're, in fact, the company did, and they recalled them. And so we sent all of ours back, and they sent us new.
I thought you were going to say that he was like reloading his own stuff.
No.
He's bought things.
Manufactured.
But it was manufactured poorly.
Right.
But it wasn't the gun.
It wasn't the gun.
No, but the ammunition was bad.
Right. I mean, and as an armorer, and even as a firearms trainer, which I was too, you always think, well, first it's the guy, then it's the gun.
User error. Yeah, they say that with IT stuff. They say problem exists between keyboard and chair.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of my toughest ones during that time. I didn't have one like that any other time. It was perplexed.
Yeah, faulty ammunition.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
Right. We when I was working with the sheriff's office, there was one guy in the department that was my partner. We worked real well together, and he had gotten a call about a possible homicide in a rural area. And so he asked me to come and help. And my job at that crime scene was photography, crime scene drawings, measuring, and all of that. So I was doing that, and we thought it was going to be a fairly involved criminal investigation. So we had called the Highway Patrol in Missouri and asked for a couple of investigators. They have Division of Drug and Crime Control, which is, we call them DDCC, or the Alphabet Boys, whatever you want to refer to. And anyway, they came out to help us. And one of the troopers, who's a really good friend of mine, we worked together on the street a lot before I was ever an investigator. He asked me what I thought, and at that time I told him, well, I said I had recovered a bullet that had traveled through a couple, 2 or 3 walls, and that I thought that, and I hadn't found any casings, so I thought it was going to be a revolver, more likely in the 38 caliber, 9mm caliber area. And then I figured it was, I went at one step further and saying I thought probably around 158 grain, probably wad cutter.
And he's thinking there's no way you can know that. I mean, that sounds like you're that's a stretch.
Well, apparently that's the case, because later on in the years have gone by, he asked me, he goes, how come you didn't get mad that night when I was making jokes with you about that bullet or that casing or that what round was used? And I said, Roger, I don't remember any of that. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, I was hitting you pretty hard. I said, well, I don't remember it. Yeah. He goes, I had a guy ask me today about ballistics and about firearms. And he says, that's the smartest guy I know is Mark Brock. He said, he just knows his stuff. He goes, the reason why I know that is because he said this 158 grain semi-wad cutter 38. And while we're investigating, we go to Dick's Sporting Goods.
Because you had traced the suspect, and he'd come into town and might have bought ammo. And so they went to Dick's.
Right. Right, yeah. Yeah, this guy came in on an airplane from Texas. He went to Dick's Sporting Goods to buy ammo. He brought his own pistol with him, obviously. And they were able to get to the video. And when they enlarged the video, they found out that on this box it said 38 special, 158 wad cutter.
Yeah, exactly what you thought it was.
Exactly. Yeah. And so
that does wonders for the reputation when you just absolutely nail it.
Yeah. I like luck. But anyway, yeah, he said he told people that story from then on out. So he just thought that that was totally impossible to make that determination from a crime scene.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How many years did you serve in the sheriff's office?
I was at the sheriff's office 36 and 5 months, 36 years and 5 months.
Wow. And when you were reaching retirement, your plans were what?
My plans at retirement was to get out of law enforcement completely. I didn't want to be a security guard. I didn't want to go work an investigation for a bank. I didn't want any of that stuff. Yeah. I was done.
Sure.
And that's what I told everybody. And then one day I got a call from my son.
And your son's a federal agent.
He is.
Right.
He is. Okay. And he said, hey, Dad, how would you like to have a retirement job? And everybody knows sometimes that federal retirement jobs are pretty good jobs.
Sure.
And so I said, well, I'll apply. And I was hired.
So what did he tell you about it? What did he say? I mean, he's an ATF agent. What are you expecting? What did he tell you initially?
He told me that I would be looking at fired casings from crime scenes and or from known sources, and examining those and entering them into a computer.
Okay. Was this going to be an office job or a lab job, or was this going to be like out in the field?
It was an office job.
Okay.
And I had my own desk. I had my own equipment. I had, I would have to travel to Kansas City, Missouri lab to use one of their pieces of equipment to finish my job. But later on, I got that same equipment in my office at the ATF.
So you're ATF civilian analyst.
Right.
That'd be correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, so an ATF civilian analyst working in Kansas City.
Correct. Well, even with as much experience as I had with firearms, when they sent me to school to do this particular job, I learned a lot of things. And it's a lot of things that you as somebody just working on a firearm or shooting a firearm wouldn't think of. So I thought, okay, this is good. I get to add to my knowledge. And so from there, it was interesting to me because I'm one of those kind of guys that likes guns, likes ammo, likes science of it.
Yeah.
And every time I got casings in, it was something brand new. You may get from anywhere from one casing to 300 casings at one time. And so you've got to go through all of those, obviously real meticulously, so that you can tell which gun fired those.
Now, is this the kind of thing where you know, like, is there a report that comes with this so you know the background, or do they purposefully not tell you that so as not to bias what you're looking for?
That's the latter is correct. They don't give me reports. They'll give me a case number.
Okay.
If I have questions, I can call them. I have probably provided information to them that maybe there was one more gun than they thought, or there was one less gun than they thought, or even I don't think this casing was involved in this incident because it was pretty corroded compared to the other.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right.
Sure.
You know, and so everything was brand new every time, and it was a challenge, and I've always been about challenge.
You're looking at these things. You mentioned, like, you could maybe rule out a shell casing because you could tell it had aged differently, different corrosion, that kind of thing. What other things were you looking at? What other features were part of the investigation?
Well, markings on the head stamp and markings on the actual primer itself will tell you a lot. A lot of times, since guns are manufactured consistently in the same fashion of where their parts are placed, you can sometimes gather information and say, well, this probably got shot out of this kind of gun because these kind of markings were left behind for these particular parts. And one time I had a 7.62 by 39, which is a Russian round originally, and it was out of an AK or an SKS.
It's the type of round you traditionally see out of an AK.
Absolutely,
right.
And I looked at the head stamp and saw that the markings looked more like an AR-15 pattern of markings that would come from that bolt.
Okay.
And so I note it, and I make sure that I try to tell the investigators, hey, you're not looking for an AK or an SK. You're looking for an AR platform.
Yes. Okay. Okay. And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
They're looking for a completely different type of rifle, and you can tell that by the imprint.
Absolutely.
On the
head stamp.
By the evidence left on the head stamp.
Right.
Of those spent casings.
Right. And a lot of times the markings in the shapes of the firing pins too will tell you what kind of firearm it came out of. So.
And you can tell if the gun has been customized.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you get a marking from doesn't just look normal,
right?
It looks too nice to be normal or factory. You can kind of determine, say, this might have had a custom part in it.
Right. How would that help an investigation?
I had a couple of casings sent to me that had been fired and picked up at a crime scene, and one of them was a 40 caliber, and the firing pin strike was just so precise. It had squared off edges. It had straight down sides. There was no rounding to it, hardly at all. And I thought, well, that's strange. I mean, it was a flat strike from a firing pin or a flat firing pin. And that's similar to Glock, and Smith & Wesson has some. But I thought, man, this is just too precise. This is an aftermarket firing pin, probably.
Okay.
And in that same group of casings was a casing that was a marked head stamped 40 caliber semi-automatic, but it had been bottlenecked down to 357, 38, 9 millimeter in that area.
Right.
And so I took measurements of it, and I started looking on the internet because I wasn't familiar with that.
Yeah.
And come to find out, it was a round that was designed by a competition shooter to meet certain speed requirements, but less recoil. And so now I have a custom gun and a custom ammo. And then I've got this maybe aftermarket firing pin. So I thought, two and two together, that's most likely somebody's collection who is probably a prominent firearms, either competitor or
somebody who
shooter.
Spends money on their guns.
Right. Absolutely.
Have custom ammunition.
Right. So I notified the department saying, if you got a burglary with this kind of gun, then that's where it came from.
When you're working in the office at the ATF, is everything a current case, or is the ATF looking at like cold cases? Are you going to get evidence from a case 25 years old? or 50 years old, or is it always current day?
Casings and known sources are kind of not too far behind each other.
Okay.
So a gun from 25 years ago may not have been used in a crime recently. In cold cases, we always say, hey, listen, let's have your cold cases. Just to happenstance, it might work.
Right.
Now, I've never seen one happen where it actually matched to a gun. It's a long shot.
Right.
But yeah, I would say, yeah, if you have a cold case, get after it.
Yeah. So the ATF doesn't have a magical ability to look at the head stamp and tell you exactly which serial number gun fired it.
It does not.
Because in the TV shows, they do.
Yeah, of course they did. There was a time in history where California was trying to pass a law where they actually put a micro serial number onto the firing pin so that it would indent into the primer. But I don't think that made headway. I think it's all gone.
Do you think that would have worked?
Oh, it would have worked perfect, but it's not needed. I mean, I think it's a little bit too personal getting into somebody's rights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't believe that's a necessary thing.
Yeah. Do you feel like you made a significant contribution in your time as an analyst?
I do. Not only for me mentally, but also I think the guys that I was around really trusted me. And there was an occasion where my son told me that one of the agents said, I don't trust anybody but him.
Yeah. He knows who the gun guy is.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So that was gratifying. It seemed like the agents always came to me.
Right.
And so I felt like they really trusted me. And most of all the guys treated me like I was one of their own. They'd ask me if I was having trouble, if they could help. It was amazing.
Well, I would think that especially the ATF would be expected to get the firearm stuff correct.
Right.
And so they're depending on you to give very reliable information to be insightful about this. That you should know what you're talking about and be accurate.
Right.
And so to be able to provide that to the agents and to the investigations they're running, that's got to be satisfying.
Exactly. Like I said, the guys that I knew, the guys that I experienced, they were all down to earth. They acted just like the guys I worked with at the sheriff's office. They were all just down to earth, good old boys, just doing their job.
Well, let's talk about the ATF a little bit. I know that several federal agencies people are pretty neutral on, but if someone's going to have an opinion about alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, they're going to probably have a negative one because the ATF might be perceived as being anti-Second Amendment or a little too eager to seize your guns, that kind of thing. What's been your impression working for them?
My impression is when I'm working with the guys in the field, I mean, they think people should have the right to own any gun.
Yeah. And
I feel having watched from where I was at, especially when new policies were being made or special assignments were being assigned to help them make policy at Washington, that's where the questions come into play against the Second Amendment.
Yeah. It's more at the politicians' level.
Correct.
And maybe back in Washington, not as much with your ATF field agents.
I agree with that. And I think the reason why that is, and we've all had bosses that sometimes didn't go through the rank and file like I have.
Yeah.
And they have ideas that they think is going to work, but they've never experienced it. So they give you an idea and it doesn't work.
So you have worked for the ATF as a civilian and your son has been an agent there. What's your opinion of working for the ATF?
I think it's one of the better federal jobs. I really do. They don't look down their nose at you. They try to help you best they can. I think they're just kind of like the old sheriff's department where if you comply, they're going to do anything they can do to help you out.
Okay. I want to go back to some of the weird gun stuff that we were talking about when you were an armorer. I've seen a shell get blown apart. I think it was a 40 inside of a 45.
Right.
And so the 45 hit the primer, but it did funny things when that shell ejected. And so
I did have at one time when I was at the sheriff's office during training, we had both 9mm ammo and 40 caliber ammo available because we were doing off-duty firearms and on-duty firearms, and our duty firearm was 40, and a lot of the guys had 9mm for off-duty. And I had a guy get on the range, and he just kept having malfunction after malfunction. And I said, "Here, let me see that." And I look at the magazine, and it's full of 9mm. And I said, "That's a 40 caliber firearm, right?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you need different ammo."
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, nothing serious ever happened. It just didn't recycle, obviously, because it wasn't enough power, and it didn't have enough backlash because there's too much spacing between the casing and the chamber. So that didn't work.
Well, I don't know what the proper terminology is, but the 40 that I saw shot out of a 45 actually banana peeled.
Oh,
at the very end of it, it split the end of the casing back like a banana peel, just a little bit. But it was like, oh wow, that should not have been shot out of that firearm.
Well, I did have a screensaver on my computer while I was working with the ATF. Somebody had taken 5.56 or 2.23, which is normally an AR sort of caliber, and they had shot it out of a 7.62 by 39 chamber.
Okay.
And what was cool about it is you could actually see the original markings from the chamber as it reshaped. And the old markings from where it was when it was a 5.56. Yeah. And of course it had been severely blown apart at the back.
Yeah.
And I wrote the property guy at that department, said, "Hey, listen, this is what's happening." I said, "If you guys need me to come down and give you a course on recognizing or inspecting a firearm before you shoot it, I'd be glad to, because somebody's going to get hurt."
Yeah. Oh, and, super dangerous.
Yeah. So he said, "I'll take care of it." Well, it wasn't. Same department. It wasn't 2 or 3 months later, I got another one just like that. And I called him. I said, "Listen, this really needs attention."
Yeah.
And it was the same guy.
Oh, no.
Because he had signed, "I shot this firearm." Yeah. And I said, "You need to really take care of that, because I don't want that guy to get hurt."
No. Good grief.
Yeah, I've seen that.
What's your favorite sidearm?
My favorite sidearm? Personally, my favorite sidearm is a 1911.
Okay.
And I carried a Springfield 1911 TRP, which is tactical response pistol, is what I carried. Duty weapon favorite? It's going to have to be a Glock. They're just so reliable. Yeah.
What do you feel about the ergonomics of a Glock? That's my issue with it. I love how reliable a Glock is.
Right.
I hate the grip angle. It feels like you're holding a 2x4.
Right.
I hate. There's like nothing about it that fits my hand.
Right. And I have experienced that, and I have been saying for years since we got into Glocks that they need to make either a single stack magazine for smaller grip, which they did, but then they got so small that it was too small.
Yeah.
And then they came out with the Model 43, and then the 43X and the 48.
Yeah.
And it's a stack and a half.
Yeah.
And the grip is perfect for me. And of course the gun is lighter. It holds 15 rounds.
Yeah.
You can buy aftermarket 15 round magazines.
Yeah.
And it's easier to conceal than my 1911. I mean, my 1911's heavy.
Sure.
Sure. And so that's what I carry. I carry a 43X with a red dot.
Awesome. Should an officer carry a red dot, or should they stay with iron sights?
And this is not a laser. A lot of people confuse them with each other.
Yeah.
Because lasers actually take more time to find than your iron sights. But a red dot is actually on top of your gun. It's closed into an apparatus, and it's right there. Yeah. You don't have to line 2 pieces of metal up.
Yeah.
It's glowing, and you see it better.
Yeah.
My opinion, and the only downside to a red dot sight is battery life.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that you stick to a maintenance regimen to keep that battery going.
Yeah. And those batteries last thousands of hours, but if you carry that gun for years, you're going to, you need to make sure that's maintained.
Right. Now, when I was in law enforcement, I made sure, and I only had one on my rifle. I didn't have one on my handgun then, because
that's a more recent development.
Right. And the department does now.
Yeah.
I mean, wherever you see that red, that's where it's going to hit.
Yeah.
And
you shoot with both eyes open.
It's easier for me to shoot. I've never been able to shoot both eyes open until I got a red dot.
Yeah.
And the red dot's faster, easier to pick up. Now, one thing about red dots, some just have a dot. Some of them have a circle.
Yeah.
And a circle and a dot.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, in combat shooting, I think circle and dot's the best combination because it picks up faster. If you want one for long distance shooting, you're going to want a small MOA dot.
Right.
And that's when you shoot long distance, so it doesn't cover your target.
Right.
But if you want close-up combat, that big circle gets you within that circle.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I don't have any sponsors on this show, so I can ask you about manufacturers of ammunition.
Right.
Do you have personal preferences? Do you have manufacturers you just won't buy from?
The only one I won't buy from is Remington.
Really?
And my experience with that was many years ago. I was deer hunting with a 30-06 and a deer at about 30 paces.
Close up.
And I let a round loose and it hit him in the backstrap at the vertebrae and did not penetrate the backstrap to go through the vertebra.
Really?
Yeah. And so I won't buy it. And now they've had a lot of praise on some of their handgun ammunition, especially for police officers, and a lot of police departments bought it, but I never would. But
okay, you had a personal episode where you're like, just no, that one's off the list,
right? Yeah, and that might have just been a fluke. I don't know.
Do you have a favorite? Do you prefer a big manufacturer? Do you have a local manufacturer you prefer? What do you prefer?
I like the larger manufacturers because they have a lot of dedicated people to work science portion of it.
Okay.
And there's so much science that wasn't known when I was a kid about the bullet performance itself that makes a big difference in law enforcement, what the bullet does and doesn't do.
Yeah.
And my favorite at this time is Hornady.
Okay.
Critical duty.
Okay.
So that's my favorite handgun ammo. Okay. Now there's some hot ones out there that if you're cool and you want to be hot, but you don't know sure where that bullet's going to go, then
right. So do you like a heavy weight, slow round, or do you want like they make like all copper, super lightweight, high speed rounds that are supposed to tumble? Do you have a preference as far as, I mean, it sounds like you're going with the heavier weight.
Well, here's the deal. What's between you and that person or the target? That's my biggest fear. And with a light fast round, something between there, something pretty small could make a bullet come apart.
Yeah.
So I want something that's going to maintain its weight. And, everybody's always said about the 1911, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's a slow, heavy bullet. It's like getting hit with a softball instead of a hard ball.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think I use a 30 caliber and actually use a 300 Winchester or Weatherby Magnum bullet to deer hunt with, and that's probably overkill here in Missouri. but I haven't had one run from it.
Left after that? No.
I've had no deer run from it.
No. Yeah. Well, that's the old joke. People talking about using a 22 long rifle round for self-defense. Or like, if someone ever shoots me with a 22 and I find out about it, I'm going to be really upset.
Absolutely.
Which is not fair. People get killed with 22s. But still.
Yeah, they are kind of a crazy little round. But they're not something you can rely on at a high percentage rate.
Did you have any of your opinions about guns and ammunition change after working for several years as an analyst for the ATF?
What I have seen when the FBI decided that the 9mm was the thing to go with here, some 10 years ago maybe, I have also heard research in the military about what firearm they're going to buy for their sidearm in the military. And generally what I find out by the time it's all over with, it's got something to do with politics.
Yeah.
The 45 has less felt recoil than a 9mm. So I had people on the department when we was 45 shoot better than they did with the 40 caliber, obviously because they had less recoil.
Yeah. And
then when we went to 9s, I didn't see any improvement from the 45.
Yeah.
So they're about the same.
Because there are camps. There are people who are like, no, one or the other is dramatically better. And the FBI back in the day, they said, no, we're going with 10mm, which no one enjoyed shooting.
Right.
And then they brought it down to the 40 cal.
Right.
And that was the standard for a long time.
Right.
But you're saying, in your estimation, a lot of that's politics.
Right. Well, and inexperience. Again, you have, in some cases, people with no experience making decisions for those who do have experience.
Yeah.
Where have we found the increase in knowledge and performance of automobile parts? Racing.
Yeah.
Where have we found better and improvements in firearms? competition.
Yeah.
So you need to be following those guys, not what you think, because these guys actually do it. If you get a small frame person shooting a 40 caliber or a 357 SIG, they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
Because most people aren't liking felt recoil. Yeah. Most people can't get over that.
Yeah. Well, that's what it bothers me when someone takes their wife to the range and buys her a new gun. And they get this little tiny framed gun. And it's like, okay, she's not going to enjoy that because now she is going to absorb all that recoil.
Right.
I'd rather start a new shooter off on a larger, heavier gun that will absorb some of that inertia. Right. And then they have a better shooting experience. And then once they're trained, they might be willing to go to something a little snappier. Right. But yeah.
People used to always ask me why I shot a 300 Weatherby. Because I like the way it feels.
Right. That's good, Mike. That's good. Yeah. Mark, thank you for coming in. I appreciate this. This is an interesting thing to look at your career path and what you've done.
I want to thank you a lot, too, for noticing me where we met and giving me this chance coming from a small department. You don't think that anybody's interested.
Yeah. Well, they are, and you're an interesting guy, so I appreciate it.
Well, I've had a lovely career, and I thank you.
I want to thank Mark Brock for coming in, and I hope that you enjoyed listening to him as much as I enjoyed talking to him, and as much as I enjoyed listening to him as I've edited this show. His Northwest Missouri accent is music to my ears. Mark Brock is exactly the kind of interview that I'm looking for. He's somebody with a ton of credibility because of his decades and decades of experience, but he's also full of wisdom, and he's a pleasure to talk to. I get emails almost daily from agents trying to sell me on podcast guests, usually somebody who's written a book about wellness. Most of those I don't even look at seriously. And I hate it that perhaps I'm missing a few really good ones in there somewhere, but I'm looking for the cop that hasn't had a chance to really tell his story. That's what I want most of my interviews to be. So if you have somebody to recommend, somebody with wisdom and experience that they can share with a younger generation of cops, would you please put me in touch with them? Those are the kind of interviews I want to curate for this audience. On the next episode of Hey Chaplain.
So you had a whole different ops plan for how our city was being covered during the funerals, so our officers could go. Yeah. And then you had, SWAT support, EOD support, gate security, ushers
So I'm walking in the tunnel. This is a Major League Soccer stadium, and I'm walking through one of the back hallway tunnel parts, and I come across a bunch of guys dressed out in camo and long rifles and everything. That was the counter sniper team, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
I have never done a funeral with a counter sniper team before.
Yeah. We always have them.
No, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
yeah.
I'm glad they do. And I saw lots of other people who were working in the sense that they were keeping us all safe while we were doing the funeral.
Absolutely.
And so the views expressed here are the personal views of the host and our guest and do not necessarily represent the views of any law enforcement agency or its components. I'm looking directly at you, ATF. I went out of my way to find someone who really loves you guys and would paint you in the best possible light. If you like this episode, please share it with a cop or someone who loves a cop. Thank you for listening to Hey Chaplain. And as always, let's pray for peace in our city.